Alright guys, so this is a how-to on installing a Gogocarbon steering wheel. I opted for the carbon fiber one, but this will be the same for the Alcantara and the leather option. I've already opened this, as you can tell. I got a little bit too excited and went ahead and opened it beforehand. So yours will be a little bit packaged a little bit differently. This will be taped on. You'll have another plastic covering on this as well. Again, I've already opened this, so I don't have any of that. So as you can see, I opted for the carbon fiber option. This is the D-shaped steering wheel, so it's going to feel a lot better than the original one on there. But what's nice about this one is that it's going to look pretty original as well. You're going to still retain the Bluetooth settings, cruise control settings, and the end call and call settings as well. So that's actually why I opted for this one. As much as I love aftermarket steering wheels and the simplicity of most of them out there, I also like to be able to retain most of my factory settings, and this is really the best option that I feel like I could go for. So as you can tell, it's got a really nice unique shape here. You got a lot of nice pieces here where you can actually get a good grip on the steering wheel. Right here, as you can tell, on the back side of this carbon fiber piece as well, there's some more grip there, you can tell. Here as well, other side, and down here. I don't know how good you can see on the camera. A very, very beautiful design. Also, gotta love that red stitching. Alrighty guys, for this simple installation, these are the things that you're going to need besides your two hands. You're going to need obviously your Gogocarbon steering wheel. You're going to need a ratchet or an impact. I chose an impact. You're going to need your 17mm socket. I chose a deep socket. You can choose a smaller socket as long as it's a 17mm. Then you also need a 10mm wrench. That way you can take off your battery terminal on your battery. You're going to need a flathead, or at least this will come in handy. You don't really need it, but it will come in handy. You're going to also need a smaller flathead for later on in the installation. You're going to also need a Phillips screwdriver, or a bit in my case because I have my driver here. You're going to also need one of these guys, or anything you can put a T30 into. You can also use a ratchet. You're going to need that guy because there's going to be two little holes in the back of the steering wheel here that have T30 screws into them. You're going to want to loosen the screws that are in the back of the steering wheel here, so that way you can go ahead and remove this airbag from here. But before we even get to that, we need to start on the first thing that we need to do, which is to remove the negative terminal on the battery using our 10mm wrench. So let's go ahead and do that. The last thing we need is to take this whole airbag off and it going off on us. So let's go remove that negative terminal and we'll get right on this. What I will mention, actually, that's a great idea before we start disassembling everything, is to actually have some painter's tape on you, or any type of tape or form of a marker to be able to mark your old position to the steering wheel. Also, first make sure that your steering wheel is nice and aligned before you start taking off the terminal on the battery or any of that stuff. So what I like to do is just rip a piece of tape off like this, long piece of tape, put it down the middle or anywhere that you know that your steering wheel was there in that position, preferably pretty straight, just so that way you don't make a mistake and you don't misplace anything. So that's a good tip right there, just to make sure that everything's aligned. So as you can tell, we've already disconnected the negative terminal on this. What you'll need is a 10mm if you still have the stock or factory terminals. Go ahead and disconnect that and make sure it doesn't touch any metal, and you should be good from here. After that, we can go ahead and start on everything else. After you got the terminal taken care of, you'll basically want to start ripping this apart. But for me, I gotta take this off, so we'll go ahead and yeet that to the back. Let's do a little comparison real quick. Look at that. That's gonna be beautiful. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started with removing the side pieces. So you want to locate the hole here. Alright, so once you loosen up those screws, I will let you know before you struggle a little bit with them Those screws don't have to completely come off, they just have to loosen up. Once you do that, test this out. If it moves off like this really easily, you can just go ahead and get to the rest of this. So you can tell here, these are your screws right here that you're messing with in the back. So you can see my finger coming through here. So these screws are the ones that you want to loosen up. You can tell they're not going to come off completely, but as long as you loosen them up enough, you'll be able to get to this piece. So here what you want to start on doing, you can start on the simplest thing if you want. Disconnect this little wire from here. It's going to be, I guess, like a ground or something. Should normally come off pretty simple. Okay, so on this one, I noticed that it actually helps to get your flathead. You're going to get this little tiny tab that's right here. You're going to push up on it. Comes off very simple. Next thing you want to do, I guess you can either start with this piece or you can start with this. Since this is right here and I'm watching it right here, just go in here. There's a little tab down here. You can use a flathead, or if you can get in there with your finger, push it down and pull out. There's going to be, of course, that other one that's down here. You can probably see it from here. You're going to need to take that one off as well. We'll get to that right now. So, where that little tiny flathead...
Whoa, stop. Freeze frame. Okay, so I noticed this while I was editing this clip here. The camera angle was not that great. So what I was trying to explain with the flathead screwdriver here was that there's two yellow tabs on top of each connector, the black one and the orange one. Above those yellow tabs, there's a tiny little slot for that flathead screwdriver where you can place it in. You're going to pry it upwards and those yellow tabs should come straight up. After you do that, it's very simple. Just take each connector off straight up. Alright, let's get it. Back to the video.
It comes into place is that you need to come in here, start pulling off these little yellow tabs. You need to be kind of careful. Pull them up like that on both sides. Up in there, put them up. You're probably going to need both hands for this. So you want to pull them up, start tugging on them. You're going to pull the connector straight out. So over here you might want to be careful because this will come off on you and fall in your lap. There you go. And this, you can start to put it aside. So that's going to be your airbag. You got to be careful with that. Next thing you're going to want to do, start disconnecting these other cables that are on here. This has got another little tab towards the bottom. I can feel it right here. Put it out. And you're good on that. After you remove those clips, there is another clip down here. Looks to be... I'm actually learning as I go here, so they're pretty much clipped onto these other little clips on here. You just disconnect them from there. This one was already disconnected because I disconnected it right now. And now the other thing we're going to want to disconnect is this other control right here. So looks to be pretty simple. Got a tab right here. Pull it in, take it out. Very basic stuff here. Alright, so the next thing you want to do, you want to start to go ahead and remove this bolt right here. So we're going to get our impact. I need my little bit here. We're going to put this in here. Get our socket, 17mm socket. We're going to go to town with this one. Alright, so it's a good idea to keep it threaded on here a little bit. Don't take it completely off. The reason why you want to do this is because you want to start tugging on the steering wheel. Might not come off right away. So give it a little hit here and there. And there you go. Loose. So now you can go ahead and move this little bolt. Put this aside. Don't lose that. And now this whole piece comes off. Be very careful with this clock spring. Very gentle with it. Put it back in its place. Try not to mess with that too much. Now that you got this off, we can go on and start taking everything else off. Your impact with your Phillips head bit. We can start moving this stuff. It might not reach. It might actually not. It won't reach. So I don't have an extension for my impact right now at the moment, so that's fine. We can go ahead and do this by hand. It's not a big problem. Let's go ahead and get this moved. Don't lose your screws. It's the last thing you need. Very careful not to break anything. As well, these parts aren't very cheap to replace. What are we missing here, guys? Clip. Alright, so we got some clips here that are holding the wires in place. Just carefully remove those. That'll come off. Next step will be these little guys here. So let's see how these guys get removed. Alright, so before trying to take these guys off, flip the steering wheel on its backside. You can see here there's some more screws here, so we need to take those off so we can take off those controls. Alright, so after removing those two screws, these will actually come off very easily. There is tabs here. I guess you don't really have to mess with those. Just take off the screws, put those aside, and there you go. That's the complete removal of everything that you'll need to reinstall into your new steering wheel. Let's do a little comparison here. This is the stock one. This is the aftermarket one. As you can tell, the diameter is a little bit smaller. You got that nice D-shaped style steering wheel on here. You put them back to back, or front to front technically in this case. Take a look at that. Nice aggressive styling to this one. It's gonna make driving this car a lot nicer. Now let's go ahead and start doing the reverse side of things, of which we just did. These are one of the screws that fell off the backside. For this, you gotta be careful. They will fall off on you. So just make sure to reinstall them in place right on these things. We'll get to that right now. Let's flip this guy around. Start getting your controls. This guy's obviously going to go on this side. Put this guy aside. Put it in place. Flip this dude over. Get your screws. If these T30 screws do fall off on you guys, all you gotta do is just carefully tuck them in here, push them in, they'll sit in there just right. Just put them aside. Let's get on to the rest of this. So now, just want to start fitting everything on here. Make sure to line everything up. What I honestly recommend is probably doing the top screws first. Just mount them in there kind of loosely. Tighten them up just a tad. Not all the way, but just a tad, just so that we can get everything in place and don't have to worry about everything moving around on you. Alright, once you get all that in place, you're pretty much good. I did find that you do need to clip these back down, so just push them back in after you screw them from the back and you're good. Go ahead and put all your screws in. I was thinking that I was missing screws for a second there because I saw that this hole doesn't have a screw and this hole doesn't have a screw. I don't know what the reason that is for, but mine didn't come with those for some reason. I'm assuming maybe for another attachment might go on this side on some other steering wheels. But this is pretty much all that's in there. This just clips in there with the little screws on there. Pretty much good. These wires, you just got to run them back in there. From there, you're pretty much good. You got to get back to the car, put this guy back on, then we'll start getting on putting the airbag back in. But man, this is starting to look really nice. Alright, now that you're back in your car, this should still be looking like this. Get your steering wheel and start threading these little guys through this little space here. Keep in mind, you gotta still be very careful with your clock spring. Make sure it doesn't move around too much or it will unwind. Put your steering wheel back in. Remember about this tape? Just keep it in line. So once you got that going on, get your nut back. You go ahead and tighten it first, just so that we got this all in place. It's good. Get your ratchet or impact. Make sure everything's aligned. And go ahead and tighten it back up. Should be good there. Awesome. Next step. Start connecting everything back. This obviously goes here. Connect that back in there. This guy right here. Common sense says put it the other way. This guy's gonna go, of course, in here. Put that guy in there. And then just go ahead and put these guys in here. Alright, now we got all that back in place. Let's go ahead and connect our airbag. Of course, be very careful. Put these guys back in. Push the clips in. And get your, what seems like is your ground. That guy back in. Start to put this back together. Realign that. Let's get to the screws. Alright, so we're pretty much set. I went ahead and saved you the trouble of watching me put those T30 screws back in and the negative terminal on the battery. All that is the same as what we did in the beginning, just in reverse. So we're pretty much set here. Everything's in place and perfect the way it should be. Now that this is on here, I gotta say, all the grips that it has here is just beautiful. It's got these perfectly placed thumb grips here. It's got a bunch of grips on the back side of the whole steering wheel. Every position that you can grab this wheel in, it feels awesome. This will perform really good on a track, but in daily driving, this is definitely gonna be a really nice feel. Now, as far as fitment goes, fitment is gonna be as good as you make it out to be. As long as you did everything right, you followed through on all the steps, your fitment should be perfectly fine. The alignment should be perfectly fine as long as you used some sort of marker, like the tape that I used. You should be good. I mean, everything's just perfect. I really can't wait to go out and drive this now.